Welcome on into the Bill Tierney Show. You're on ESPN Denver 1600. We're joined every Wednesday at 6:30 by the head coach of the defending national champion Denver Pioneers of men's lacrosse, Bill Tierney. I'm Rod Sharon. And, Coach, I know you're a big deal because I seemingly never see you anymore without a camera crew following you around.
I don't know. There must be not much good news going on around here if they're following me around, but it's always nice to have people around you that are highlighting our kids and our program, and I guess it beats the alternative, that's for sure.
It certainly does that, and Coach, your team now ranked third in the country, 10-1, 3-0 in the Big East, coming off a 17-10 win over St. John's last weekend over at Peter Barton Lacrosse Stadium. And before we get into the game and obviously the elements that were at that game, what was it like to be back on the home field in front of the home fans?
Well, we look forward to it so much. We were away as 5 of the last 6 weeks, and we finally get home, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. But it's always great to be back at Peter Barton. A little concerning that we had to clear snow again and play in another so-called blizzard. But it's always good to sleep in your own bed and have your opponent have to travel and wake up in a hotel.
Speaking of those conditions, Coach, is it fair to say, and I know we don't always want to draw individual attention, but I think the clear MVP of last weekend has to be the grounds crew for the performance they did over at Peter Barton Lacrosse Stadium.
Absolutely, and Nico Blankenship, our sports information director, reminded me, I hope he didn't have to, but reminded me right away that needed to be the first quote, and it was, because those guys do an amazing job. We got there at about 7:30 in the morning, and God knows how much snow was on the ground, and we just looked at each other and said, there's no way this is happening. And, by 11:15, the guys were out on the field throwing it around. We had our administrators, our staff member, people with snow removal, shovels, machines, plows, you name it, they were out there. And actually got a couple of calls after the game asking us if we heat the field because it was so clear during the game. So always proud of Doug and his staff and those guys because they put in a yeoman's effort to make the field playable for our guys.
Well, Coach, you'd hope that maybe you're limited only one of those type of games a year, but you just had one the previous week.
I hadn't had one of those in 40 years, and all of a sudden I have 2 in 2 weeks. So it's actually just a freak because we had one on the East Coast and one out here. So, we've been blessed with such good weather over the 7 years I've been here in Denver. I guess it's payback time.
Coach, we spoke a week ago about you were very proud with how your team handled those conditions in Villanova, which distinctly affected the flow of the game. As you mentioned, there was one end of the field that you wanted to be going towards and one end of the field you didn't want to be defending. You were proud how they handled it, and we even discussed last week on the Bill Tierney Show of maybe taking a little bit of that experience towards the game against St. John's, assuming that there was going to be some weather. How do you think your team handled it? Obviously, you won the game, but how do you think they handled the conditions specifically?
I think Matt Brown, my associate head coach, made a decision, and we agreed with that. The first week with Villanova, we said, okay, we'll wait till go out on the field. As you know, lacrosse is played in shorts, and so we wait to go out on the field a half hour before the game, and we'll warm up. Well, it didn't take long for those guys to be freezing, so we changed our tactics a little bit this week. We warmed up in our sweats and rain jackets, actually got a good sweat going on such a cold day, brought them back in and kind of got changed into our uniforms, and they felt a lot better about it, and I thought we got off to a great start, and the kids felt a heck of a lot better, especially those guys on the sideline who had a little bit of warmth in them before the game started.
As we begin to discuss what happened in the game beyond just the elements, the starts of games has been a reoccurring theme. We've talked about, you and I have talked about this for years, really, of getting off either to a good start or having to compensate for a bad one and how that tends to kind of set the tone. Well, in this game, you get back-to-back goals just a minute apart to start the game. I mean, how good are you feeling at that point?
Well, we have been starting off pretty well this year. What held us back from feeling great about that was that a quick memory of the week before when we scored 2 goals in the first minute against Villanova, and then it was a war from that point on. So we felt good about how we scored the goals, that some of the things we had worked on, during the week came to fruition, and the guys did a great job with it. So it's always good to get that offense clicking, getting the ball moving, and have it be turn out the way it did. Our guys rise to the occasion, and then, as we say almost every week, it's nice to know that Trevor Baptiste is going to win so many faceoffs, so it's you can play basically a half-field game for a lot of it.
Coach, I want to follow up on that, on the communication element of your sport and how challenging it is. We watch a football game, you huddle after each play. Guys are in and out of the field talking with their coaches. You see them huddled on the bench talking with the coach. Basketball, they're always getting together with the coach, drawing up a play. Hockey, you've got line shifts, everybody coming on and off the ice. Your sport, unique from the aspect of, as you mentioned, outside of the midfielders, you could possibly go, an entire half without being able to talk to your goalie or a defender or one of your offensive players. How do you break through that communication wall?
Well, the good news is, we've been blessed to be on TV a lot, so you have some TV timeouts. Each team gets 2 timeouts a half, so you do get a chance for that. But there's just the best communication is from the 2 loud voices of my assistant coaches, John Orson and Matt Brown. And when we send an offense in after we've cleared the ball from defense to offense, Matt will tell those midfielders that are going on, especially on a rough day like the other day, and tell them what play he wants them to run or what set we're in or what we're trying to do, and then they will echo it around to the 6 players on the field. And then we also flip-flop sides. So sometimes it's easier for the offensive coach, sometimes it's easier for the defensive coach, but defensively the communication comes mostly from the players because we work on what we're gonna do during the week, and they do a good job of that. But I think offensively, especially, the elements can affect you if you're not ready for them.
Learning a lesson. There's still lessons to be learned for your team, even after everything you've gone through, winning a national championship a year ago, going on a win streak, then losing a game. Is there still lessons to be learned?
Oh my God, there's so much to do. We talked about it today with them. A year ago we were on such a roll at this point in the season. We were winning games 18-5, 19-7, 17-6, and now we're struggling a little bit with having that kind of momentum, and I think the Villanova game highlighted that. But we're trying to get back there, but sometimes we got to be reminded that, Wes Berg and Eric Adamson and all that crew, Sean Cannizzaro and all those great defensive guys are gone. And we're going to hit those glitches, but if we're going to be good and we're going to be playing on Memorial Day, we've got to make sure that we keep going forward with these guys and not let it go get boring or stay on the same track, because we can get better each day.
Well, Coach, you come away with the 17-10 win. It goes final. We hinted a little bit about this earlier, but we talk about him every week glowingly. But Trevor Baptiste, another big game, 20-25 face-off wins, picks up 20 ground balls. That's a career high. How tough is your team to beat? Imagine yourself coaching against your squad when Trevor Baptiste is playing like that. How frustrating must that be for the opponent?
Well, these guys are great coaches that we play against, and they're finding all sorts of different ways, and seemingly from the calls that aren't being made, the refs agree with them. So Trevor is getting tackled. He's getting his stick held. He's getting leaned on. His head's going on his stick. There's so many there, and now they're whenever he wins the faceoff, he's seeing 2 and 3 long sticks flying all over the place at him. Last week, Matt Brown and John Orson, each on a separate day, took Trevor out for some early work. Matt worked him on his individual skills, and that really showed up on Saturday. And John worked with Trevor and our wing guys on some more different strategies that we employed last week. So with those kind of assistant coaches and a kid like Trevor who works as hard as he does, it's not a surprise that we improved.
Trevor's still a pretty young player, though. Do you ever get concerned with some of the things you're talking about, maybe getting beaten on a little bit, that it could begin to get to him, get a little frustrating?
We get mostly concerned with Trevor being as tough on Trevor as he is. That's our biggest concern. He is so tough on himself. Literally, I don't have to ever say anything to him. Now, I do once in a while, but I don't have to. And because he knows what's coming when he comes off the field, he knows the mistakes he makes, and he's really tough on him. Now, I told him at the beginning of this year that he took 550 faceoffs last year, that we were going to try to cut that down. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that. So I do worry about him. We kind of make him take the whole summer off, don't do much with him in the fall either. And so he's just an amazing young man, a talented athlete, and he just gets better and better each day.
A few more individuals to get to, Coach. Connor Cannizzaro, 5 goals. Do you continue to just be impressed with how efficient he can be week to week?
Yeah, absolutely. And this was a different week than the week before. The week before against Villanova, we were really struggling. And we went to Connor and said, it's time. You got to take this game into your hands because they were pushing us out a little further than we wanted to be. The weather was so bad we couldn't run our basic zone offense, and Connor did that. This week, I think Connor would be the first one to tell you that he got the results off of some efforts of some other guys, which is what his job is. You know, oftentimes we talk about being unselfish, but unselfishness for an attackman is scoring the goals that others worked for, and he did a great job. He scored from the outside, he scored from the inside, but Tyler Pace had 4 assists, Bomberry had a few assists, so we're getting play from other guys that help guys like Jack Bobzian and Connor Cannizzaro get their goals.
And the last one I wanted to get to, and you just mentioned him, was Tyler Pace, who had 4 assists in the game. Coach, we spent a lot of time before the season began about your expectations for him, not just from a production standpoint, but from a leadership standpoint as well, with so many memorable Pioneers leaving from last year's championship team. Has he met the expectations that you had put on him from before the year, at least so far?
Well, he's evolved. It's been really interesting to watch. You watch him and Zach Miller both. They've changed their game. They've gone from goal scorers to assist guys at the midfield, which is strange. It's really, really rare. And the best thing that Tyler and Zach have done, besides using their skills for what they do, is they've brought Colton Jackson along with them. And I often say that I could play on the midfield with Pace and Miller, but Colton has really taken on to that role, and now is, because he's become confident because of the way those two guys play, we're starting to see what he can be.
It's the Coach Bill Tierney Show on ESPN Denver 1600. Coming up on Saturday in Rhode Island, the Pioneers will take on Providence. Coverage begins at 9:30 a.m. I know you love those early starts, Coach. On ESPN Denver 1600, Tyler Mon will have the call. Another road game, another early beginning. What are your initial thoughts on Providence?
Well, Providence, and we've told the team this, and it's no lie, they're the toughest and most hardworking and team in the country, I believe, and who will never give up. You watch some of their games where they were down to Marquette last week, a team that took Notre Dame to overtime a few days before that. They were down 7-0 at halftime and end up losing the game 8-7, held Marquette to 1 goal in the second half. And so last night against Brown, they got down by a bunch and all of a sudden score in the last 4 or 5 goals. So it's a team that we can never give up on as far as their effort. They've got some great athletes. They've got a couple of great offensive players. Hopefully, we can control the face-off game and the tempo of the game like we want to. But we know that they're going to be there for the full 60 minutes.
To speak to that resiliency, a year ago, their win total it's actually already been exceeded this year with 7 wins, or 7-6, 1-2 in the Big East. When you look at them and you look at their coach, Chris Gabrielli, and you talked a little bit about the resilience there, Coach, is it just a fighting spirit? Is it a scrappiness? Is it a physical toughness that you're going to have to match? Or maybe is it something stylistically that is giving teams troubles in the second half? What is it about the College Friars?
Well, sometimes the teams take on the personality of their coach, and Chris is a tough guy. Chris was a tough player in college. He coached at Duke for a while as a defensive coordinator. He went up to Providence, to a place that was really, in the lacrosse world, pretty barren, and he's gone up there, and as you mentioned, they have 7 wins this year. He's recruited some great kids, and they've taken on his spirit. They've taken on his attitude, which is one of we're going to play this game hard forever, and you're gonna do the same, or you're not going to play. So maybe don't have quite as many skill guys that we do, but I know it's going to be a big challenge because they are Chris's team.
Who are some of the specific players we maybe want to keep an eye on that you can maybe give us a short scouting report on, Coach, whether it's a Brendan Kearns or Keenan Nassarov? Who do we need to keep an eye on?
Well, the Mazzoni kid is a transfer from Army a couple of years ago. He is really a talented attackman. Christian Bergdorf's going to have his hands full with this guy. He's so quick. He's quick like Connor Cannizzaro quick, and he gets his points and gets his assists. He's really a handful. They've got two two midfielders that are really fast and talented, and then this kid Jared Newman, who's a defenseman, maybe the best athlete in the country. He certainly, I believe, he is in the Big East. He's a big, strong defenseman. He'll take some face-offs, play some wings. He just disrupts everything out there. Sometimes it's not within sync of their defense, which can sometimes be more disruptive, and he'll cover Connor, and that'll be an interesting matchup.
Well, Coach, it'll be an interesting matchup in general, and we look forward to it on Saturday. The Pioneers taking on Providence. Again, coverage beginning at 9:30 a.m. right here on ESPN Number 1600. Tyler Mon will have the call. Coach, safe travels to Rhode Island. Good luck. We'll catch up next week.
Thanks, Raj.
He is the head coach, Bill Tierney. I'm Raj Sharon. Thanks so much for joining us for the Bill Tierney Show. We'll be back next week at 6:30 right here on ESPN Number 1600. Thanks to the Sedge for another great program. Go Pioneers. We'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Anyway.